So in this next session, our panelists will explore various experiences and perspectives on justice education, including experiential learning, clinical legal education, externships, and law and literacy programs. We will have our third panel for today, which will be diving into the topic of conversations and educating for justice stories from the field. So first, let me introduce to you the moderator for this afternoon session. We have an alumna, a JD alumna of the of the UP College of Law, as well as a Master's of Public Management holder from the same university. She is an associate professor at La Salle University and Lyceum of the Philippines University Colleges of Law. Let's welcome the program officer from the Legal Education Advancement Program Faculty Fellowships, Attorney Christine Dacuyan Eugenio. Attorney, thanks. She will be joined by our panelists. First, we have Attorney Aison Garcia, one of our project officers as well from the LEAP Faculty Fellowship Program. We also have Attorney Liezl Mones. There you go. Who is a member of the or a representative of the alternative law groups. We also have Mr. Enrique Porto, Universidade Presbiteriana Mackenzie from Brazil, sir. And finally, Dean Gonzaga from the University of St. Salle-Bacolod.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon to everyone. Thank you, Aaron. So from yesterday to this morning, it has been highlighted and emphasized how heavy an obligation we have as lawyers and educators. It's our responsibility not only to our clients, to our students, but to the community as well. So today we will have a conversation, an engaging conversation, and we have the alternative law groups represented by Attorney Liezl Mones. They will discuss their interventions, paralegal formation, and their partnering with marginalized sectors on using popular education. And together with Attorney Aison Garcia, who will discuss fellowships, the pursuit of these fellowships with the aim of building networks among legal educators and the importance of community and collaboration. We also have Attorney Enrique Porto, who will share with us their experience in Brazil in terms of learner-centered methods and emphasis on the ethos of learning and being intentional about these methods. Also, from the University of St. LaSalle, we have Dean Rosanne Gonzaga, who will discuss and integrate the model clinical legal education program, and together with all the details, sustainability, and plans in furtherance of the Legal Education Board's objectives of integrating social justice, ethics, human rights, and gender equity, and public interest into the legal education system. So we start first with a presentation by Attorney Liezl Mones.
Thank you, Attorney Tinks. Good afternoon, magandang hapon, and magandang malam. I am honored to present the work of the alternative law groups. So here, the alternative law groups is a coalition of Philippine non-government organizations, and there are 18 organizations that work on developmental law in pursuit of social justice. So our members have distinct programs for developmental legal assistance that is primarily concerned with the pursuit of public interest, respect for human rights, and promotion of social justice. We believe that at the heart of developmental law is the dual work of empowering the poor and the marginalized and effecting justice system reforms. So our vision is to have a social justice, and the mission is to effect societal change through the creative use of the law. Next slide, please. So here are our members, and as you can see, there are 18 organizations. If I may mention all of them, we have the Ateneo Human Rights Center, we have Balaod Mindanao in Cagayan de Oro, we have Children's Legal Bureau, we have ELAC in Gender Rights, ERDA Foundation, we have HLAF, or Humanitarian Legal Assistance, we have Kaisahan, We have Kanlungan, LRC, Panlipi, Philippine Earth Justice Center, Process Panay, Rainbow Rights, Saligan, Tanggol, Kalikasan, Tebteba, and Women's Legal and Human Rights Bureau. Next slide, please. Here, we are located in different parts of the Philippines, but our operations cover the entire country. Next slide, please. And probably the question is, how do we do when we say we employ the creative use of the law? We have legal empowerment approaches, and the first one is direct legal services and litigation, and the second one is education and paralegal development. Next one is internship and policy reform work, research, and publications. Allow me to explain one by one these legal empowerment approaches. When we talk about direct legal services, we don't talk about any case that the partner communities would ask us to serve. We select the strategic ones, cases that would affect not just one person or one client or an individual, but one that would affect a sector, or one that would set a precedent-setting case, because we believe that by winning one case, it would affect more people. So we have the strategic litigation. For education and paralegal development, and this one I would like to bring the title of the conversation. When we talk about educating for justice, it's actually the communities that we work with who would educate us about what justice is. So when we do paralegal work, we partner with communities who are already, who have issues, however, they cannot see that the law would apply to them. So what do we do with different organizations? That we partner with them, and we start with what is the issue, what is the legal problem. And by doing so, when we do that, the law becomes relevant to them because they are the ones who would identify what the issue is. And we work together and find what is the solution to that problem. So we value the input of our communities, of our paralegals, because they know what the issue is, and then we facilitate. We don't actually teach them how to do it, but we facilitate how they can attain, or how do they find the answer to that legal problem. So it becomes relevant and it becomes transformative, the legal education that we do. And we employ different methodologies. And I would like to appreciate, I appreciate the presentation of Professor Ro, because it affirms also, and it supports the kind of legal education that you are espousing. So in paralegal formation, we use a lot of structured learning exercise, and we use games, we use storytelling, we use role playing especially for concepts that are abstract at the beginning, but we try to break it down and let them understand using their own experiences. For the internship activities, and this one we partner with different law schools. Some are because it is required by the schools, but many interns also would like to see what alternative lawyering is, would voluntarily approach us and become interns and see what it is like to be an alternative lawyer. Basically, what we just provide in the internship program is that we provide them the venue for them to see who really needs the law the most. So we bring them, for example, in a community of farmers, in a community of fishers, and they live with them for a week and see how the law is affecting these basic sectors. So that's how we do it. And for policy reform, because we have legal education, and sometimes part of educating not just the communities but educating us as well, when we see, based on the analysis, based on the application of that particular law, it does not favor them. We look for, we do advocacy, policy advocacy, and change the law because it no longer favors or it does not serve the needs or the interest of the basic sector. And as a support, we do research and publication. So, and these are just examples of our activities. For example, we go to the communities for the legal education. So we go to the different areas, and some of them are what you call GIDA, geographically isolated areas. And these are also, if we can go back to the previous slide. So we can also see the different sectors that we work with. We have farmers, we have indigenous peoples. Sorry, it's kind of malabo, no. But this one are the interns. Even at the height of the pandemic, we still have the internship program, and of course we use Zoom to connect with them and still have the learning via Zoom. And we also have on this picture, we also partner and work with prosecutors and those who are in the government. On that one is a learning session on children's laws on children. So next slide, please. And as mentioned earlier, if there are laws that no longer that we think will not favor the basic and the marginalized, we do extra legal tactics, or we go meta legal tactics, no? Like we go to the streets so that we will be our advocacies are heard. And here we also have, speaking about strategic litigation, we also filed a petition at the Supreme Court when the anti-terror law was passed. And yeah, some of the activities that we do.
Thank you, Attorney Liezl. So the alternative law groups does end-to-end work from engagement at the grassroots of the communities and filing test cases, policy advocacy, and actually even legislation which will favor the sectors. These are actually not very different from the CLEP objectives of promoting public interest and looking into not only legal but also the social needs of the clients. We now call on Attorney Aison, who may sit down.
Okay, thank you.
But before that, so one of the leaders who partnered with ALG, Rene Peñas of Sumila Farmers in Bukidnon, said in one paralegal session that this is the highway university or pamantasan sa lansangan because they learned with and also the lawyers learned from them. Thank you for that again. Attorney Aison, who is one of the program officers for the faculty fellowships, has had a lot of experience through the 6 courses regarding how a community of scholars from all over the Philippines could come together and help educating for justice.
Okay, thank you, thanks. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm also a member of the Alternative Law Group. No? Before I joined government, no, so I was a member of Saligan. So we did a lot of community work, empowerment, and focus on the marginalized sectors. So we were able to represent farmers and indigenous peoples in the courts, and also in advancing reforms in the law, no? So the Comprehensive Agrarian Reform Program. From that experience, I was able to realize that the law is just a tool, and it's the communities when they know the law can make it a real thing, no? And that for me is a very powerful realization that the law does not just exist in the classroom or in the paper or in the cases, but also needs to be experienced and lived out, no, in the field. So after my stint at the Sadigan, I joined the government, and in the government it's a different system. But there are a lot of people in the government who wants to effect change. No? So I was so fortunate to be part of that team when we were able to effect change coming from the law. No? So we need to implement it, no, and put systems and the necessary implementing mechanisms, no, and that was something that I learned a lot, no, from if we are doing it one by one in the NGO world, in the government, in one issuance, you can already affect hundreds and thousands of cases. So there is really scale and resources, no, available. And those two experience, I want to share to also the students that I'm teaching in the law schools. The thing is, the students are really thirsting for ways on how to be useful in the community. No? That's at least for my experience. No? They are looking for ways to realize something noble, no? To contribute to the community. So what I'm doing in the classroom is really to expose them to different lawyering, because there are, the usual lawyering which just deals with cases and clients. The other lawyering, developmental lawyering, where they try to engage developmental projects. And then the third one is the empowerment lawyering, no? Where the lawyer makes the law accessible to the community, and eventually the community themselves will rise up and be empowered, just like what Ting said about the Sumilaw farmers. No? When we started training them in 1996, we never realized that they will become leaders and change makers in 2007. When I was still a student, no, I learned the case of Fortich versus Corona. That was a Supreme Court decision when the Sumilaw farmers lost in the Supreme Court. But it did not stop them. And the learnings that they got from paralegal trainings pushed them for again, doing reforms in the system by walking from Bukidnon to Manila. And yeah, so that's really the, the thing with educating justice. The important thing is really immersion with the community, encounter the problem, in smell the place and touch the people and get to know them. And I was so fortunate to have mentors when I was still a law student. No? One of them is Justice Leonen, who brought us to a community where we walked for one whole day to get to the DPO in Vizcaya. So that's, again, to the point that we need fellows, we need role models that will point us, to a practice of law that is useful and fulfilling.
So yes, thank you, Atty. Aison. From communities to students and other stakeholders in legal education, I'd just like to chime in that during the fellowships, the fellows from Northern Luzon to Southern Mindanao bonded and banded together to form an organization to keep to sustain what they learned and to cascade. For instance, if I might just share an anecdote, the deans from Mindanao, from both Bukidnon State University, University of Southeastern Philippines, to Xavier and other law schools in Mindanao, highlighted that they don't have a legal resource center. And because of the generosity and assistance of the UP College of Law and the Law Center, they were able to access some of the references. And the dream is to establish one such resource center in Mindanao for them. And of course, subject to discussions with the assistance of the universities here. So that's one of the positive spin-offs from the program. In this portion, I'll be using the words of Dean Gonzaga because she has a very comprehensive and impactful model CLEP that she will present today. I just wanted to emphasize how similar the goals are because in Dean Gonzaga's words, the students have to have practice-based learning and have an effective interactive CLEP program where they can apply the legal theories and concepts they learned in the classroom through the CLEP and to fulfill the promotion of access to justice and social responsibility. So may we request our support team? In here,
Let me stand so that I can point out the important words. Hi, good afternoon, everyone, and to everyone online. I've gathered so much from Professor Rose sharing earlier. I feel knowledge is to be shared. And when we talk about access to justice, becoming a responsible, ethical, competent lawyer, aspiring lawyer, as far as my students are concerned, this has to be experienced. The words access to justice, they're just words. But if you cannot translate that into meaningful action, and this starts in the law school, then there is no point to all these conferences where we cannot bring it down on ground level and show everyone that this is all possible. There are other law schools that still worry about preparing, getting their resources together, launching their CLEP program. In fact, out of 128 law schools, there are still about 6 to 7 law schools struggling. So I'll tell you my story because I too worried. I will say the word is worried because I wanted to give the students the best legal education that our school can provide. But what is the best? In 2019, I had the good fortune to attend the legal education conference in Manila. And I was listening to Justice Bersamin talking about the concept of access to justice and that the law schools were going to begin the legal aid program. Those were just words. And later on, I was thinking about how are we going to begin this when I didn't know where to start. Today, I will show you what we had done so far. When the pandemic hit and the Legal Education Board had also reminded the law schools that the clinical legal education program must begin, I had the time to talk to some of my trusted alumni to help me begin our CLEP program. The CLEP model that we have in the University of St. La Salle College of Law is an externship clinic. Why is it an externship clinic? Because we did not have the resources to establish a physical law office within our premises, in campus, or outside. Not having enough personnel. We didn't have the budget for it. We didn't have computers. We didn't have filing cabinets. We didn't even know if we could have enough supervising lawyers committing themselves to help our students. So let's begin. It is a curriculum-based course subject, CLE 1 and 2 as we call it. This has to be a program. This is not simply legal aid or what we call libreng konsulta. When we talk about libreng konsulta or free legal aid, I am reminded of our projects in the law school where we partner, for example, with the IBP, go to the malls, give free legal advice for the whole day, and then go home. But CLEP is beyond that. It not only opens doors to our students in relation to learning about themselves in the process of going to classes. So you learn about criminal law, civil law, property laws, commercial laws. By CLEP, they are immersed into these concepts by way of practice. What do I mean by that? 240 hours translated into real, actual work. How do we do this? Because I did not have an actual law office with the law school. I went to our partners. Our partners are the courts, the regional trial court, the municipal trial court in cities. The judges were so glad that we were going to begin this project. And so they conversed with me and they asked, how could they help? So the help came from outside. The resources came from outside. The Integrated Bar of the Philippines, Negros Occidental Chapter's president also approached us and asked how they can help. And so they provided us an avenue for our law student practitioners to go into the field, again, supervised. Together with that, many other social-civic organizations, the Justice Zone of Bacolod City, had also reached out to us, and now my law student practitioners of the pioneer batch of academic year 2021-2022 have already completed their CLEP program, first SEM and second SEM, 240 hours or more. I will show you in a while why it's more than 240 hours. But just to begin, when the oath taking for level 1 and level 1 certified law student practitioners were held in the courts, the executive judge was so excited about the project, and he talked about Rule 138A as being one that will actually provide not only learning for the students, but also to serve the community where, for example, the congestion of the public attorney's office in terms of cases. The way that we can also help decongest the courts from numerous cases filed. We had a partnership with the Philippine Mediation Council. So now I have students who are also helping avoid filing of case suits, and at the same time, they are also able to do rotation in courts. The practical experience here, as I had outlined them, actually serve the very vision of the CLEP program. We want to be the pioneer program or clinical legal aid program in Negros Occidental or in our city, which has already happened. Together with that, we recognize our shared responsibility. The law school has the responsibility shared together with its supervising lawyers, its law student practitioners, and the rest of the CLEP providers in providing the mandate of revised Rule 138A, which is to provide access or to promote access to justice, and so that the aspiring lawyers whom we will produce in academic year 2023 or soon to graduate will become or are competent, responsible, ethical lawyers. The mission is to create a holistic experience in the field by using technology because the pandemic hit, and therefore we must be able to reach our clients. Together with that, we couple this with service, that the orientation of our mindset must be service. This is not only just giving seminars. This is not only giving one-day counseling in the malls like free legal aid. This is actually having the students reach out to the community, involve themselves with the legal issues. It brings the students to the forefront of the prevalent issues that are felt, that are plaguing, or that are causing trouble, for example, or questions of rights, questions on rights, human rights, for example, within our city, within our jurisdiction, or Negros Occidental. The reason for that is that the practice or the program of CLEP is to be taken up, is to be exercised only within our jurisdiction, so that the law school is able to supervise the program together with the courts. An interesting experience of my students is this: the 240 hours, how did they use all of those hours up in learning and in practice? We have court rotations just like medical students. They have to take up, let's say, 2 cases, civil law, 2 cases for criminal law. They also have to be rotated into commercial law courts, drugs courts, family law courts. They were also given assignments in the municipal trial court in cities, where they actually will prepare the evidence for small claims cases. Small claims cases do not need lawyers, but certainly the litigants or the clients will need legal advice. And so the students are able to use their knowledge learned in the classroom, in procedure, and actually apply them firsthand, real-world experience. And what does this do for the student? It actually makes the student appreciate the knowledge that they've gained in the classroom, not only remember, but also it makes them more proud that they are studying the law. One of the questions I'd ask my students when they join the law school is, what is the motivation? And they will tell me, I want to be of service to the community. But that is a broad ambition. And that ambition, I will not take for granted. So today, with the CLEP program, I want to be of service to the community. How will you do that? I allow my students to choose what externship practice might they be interested in. So some want to go into alternative dispute resolution, some want to go into policy formation or campaign, some want to get into, let us say, court practice, others want to serve the marginalized in the sense that they want to replicate the work or the services of the public attorney's office by rendering legal advice during our coordinated efforts with the Office of Legal Aid of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines. So the 240 hours, actually, it's very short. Together with that, what makes the CLEP program special? It's the learning activity that follows. We have a classroom component. The classroom component, after the deployment of the students in the field, will allow them now to reflect upon what they had done. So not only do you prepare the students by orienting them, upon their deployment, they go to the field, they do their work, but they are required to come back into the classroom to discuss amongst themselves and to learn from each other. They do reflective journals. They will write about their experience. They have assessment forms. Not only do we pre-assess the students prior to joining the CLEP program, a midterm assessment is also done. Why? Because I need the students to be able to measure for themselves how much learning and how much realization of the importance of CLEP has been instilled in them. I cannot know how lawyering on the field for them feels and how has this contributed to their development as professionals. My student once told me, "Do you know that after our oath-taking and swearing, I was all dressed up in my black coat. I felt like a lawyer. But more than that, when I started my court rotation, I was so proud that the little effort that I had done in the court has actually made the client smile. In fact, the client calls me now attorney, and I would correct the person and say, no, I am still a law student practitioner." In the eyes of the community, the student has shared his knowledge, that the community or the client has relied on such knowledge. You see the responsibility that is carried by the student. It's very heavy. And so we come back to the classroom and we talk about it. We learn from each other. That's what we've been doing. So the full year, 1 semester becomes 2 semesters. Now they're CLEP certified number 2, which means they can go to court. So my 4th year students are level 2 certified already. JD3 is where they begin with level 1, level 2, JD4, prior to graduation. So I'm really excited for all of them. The goal here is to produce practice-ready lawyers and that passion to promote access to justice, social responsibility. This has to be learned by experience, because without them actually aiding, advising, counseling a client, and seeing the effect on the client, it's just words, it's just a concept. Next slide, please. So what are our protocols? Of course, we have to have learning outcomes. These learning outcomes have been put together through a dialogue between supervising lawyers and the law student practitioners. You see, the law student practitioners are given the chance to prepare their own agenda for the CLEP program. This now makes them look into themselves and ask, what do I want to get out of this CLEP program? And this is where we now understand that each student has a different orientation, cultural background, bias. And all of this, we in the law school have to understand and temper, because we can learn the concepts in the classroom, but when they go out in the field, we might not be able to foresee what decisions they might make, foresee what advice they might give, because everybody has a different understanding of what the client might need. So the supervising lawyers are not there actually to tell them what to do. It is the students that actually prepare their own agenda. But we have a general set of objectives that they are to attain at the end of the CLEP program. So an understanding of the theories, that's a given. The practice in the field, that's a given. They have to be able to take care of their client. It's the client's interest that has to come before anything else. And the client is the marginalized sector of society. Then you have to enhance competence as a lawyer. And therefore, after being competent, that is when you realize that the responsibility is heavy on your shoulders. Why? Because once you've learned one skill and another skill and another skill, they become braver in the field. I've seen them brave in the field. So how do we engage supervising lawyers? I had to carefully choose my supervising lawyers. Because I had no resources, I started with the alumni. The alumni volunteered their hours, and I thank their generosity of their time and patience, and that they had joined us over a year, and more alumni are asking to join the program. So last November 2021, with the pioneer batch of 33 law student practitioners, today, last September, we had sworn in another 46. So we have more and more students going out in the field. In our little city, there are more students wanting to do more for the community. So when you ask them, what do you want to do as more for the community? It's no longer, I want to fight for civil rights. I want to fight for human rights. No, I want to translate my client's case into meaningful defense. I want to be the best I can be. And this is the reason why I myself have gone through the training. I cannot tell you, I thank the Legal Education Board for giving us the training and the modules that helped us develop this course. I had the good fortune to join the Externships 11 conference in the US at Pepperdine University just last October, and to listen to the American setup of externships. And I realized it's almost the same. It's almost the same, except we do not have private practice. That's all that we don't have. It's almost the same. So they have a sophisticated system. I have a system I set up last year. And it works. It works. And I have a course manual for externships that I'd like to share to all of you. I have a syllabus that I had already prepared. And moving on to the next. Regular feedback and monitoring. I was talking about the classroom component. That's exactly it. Other professors were asking me, what in CLEP is the learning portion and the field portion? I said the learning portion there is all the time. But it is necessary for the program not only to have the students out in the field, you must bring them back so that you can process what they did in the field. You must prepare, you will do it, and I learned this from the professors in Pepperdine during the externships conference, particularly from the Vermont Law School, Professor Beth Locker. She was telling us that the student prepares the agenda, and later on I learned from Professor Jeff Baker of Pepperdine 3 important things so that your CLEP program will work. You prepare. Admin prepares, the dean prepares, the supervising lawyer prepares, the student prepares. Then you are deployed. Before deployment, you still prepare, there is an orientation, and finally, the classroom component. You must bring them back into the classroom. This is not chiming in. This is not regular feedback. This is actually sit down amongst the group members, because I have 5 supervising lawyers, and I divided my my law student practitioners into groups of 5 or 6, and that they are now processing what they had learned in the field. And from that, they will now prepare their reflective papers and assessment forms. But I also required at the end of the year a reflective paper on social justice. The reason for this is because the assessment process that I had introduced is quite broad and detailed, because I want to give letter grades. I think students should have letter grades. That is my belief. For others, pass or fail is fine. But the reason for letter grades is that the student is, the student that is more driven is the student that will continue. And if we talk about the sustainability of CLEP and the program, it cannot just be with starting off with last year or this year. I need our CLEP graduates to finish law school, pass the bar, go through practice, and come back and do this all over again with a new set of law student practitioners. It's the only way to get it going and to get it sustained. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. And then we're talking about ensuring safety. I was asked to present this to you. How do we ensure safety? Of course, there's preparation, orientation. These are things that I just added as part of basic safety protocols. But what is most important really is there is not one project or session that they are not chaperoned or supervised. All the projects that I have agreed upon in the CLEP program has to go through me and evaluated by me as their head of office. The reason for this is that I am responsible if anything happens to them. You know, it's good to be excited about going to the field. It's another thing to be careful. And when we do this, not only are we careful when we talk to our clients, I myself must be careful about my students going out on the field and talking to clients, going to the jails. It's not that easy. Handling drug cases. These are complicated cases that sometimes there are types of cases that I feel that students are not yet ready to do. So you can all be excited, but really it will have to be a program where you're not just doing it for excitement, but doing it because you are getting something good as part of your learning process and development of your professional identity through it. Next slide, please. Here's a sample now of a page of our syllabus, which I have with me, and I can share with you. You can just send your email to me. I have a clinical legal education program externship manual. In this manual, I will give you, it's a 56-page manual that will share with you how we develop this from beginning until the graduation of my first pioneer batch. This will develop in time. One of the important things here that you will see, next slide. Well, one of the important parts here is the table of contents. The table of contents will show you when you have the copy, you know. You'll show you our externship agreement with my law student practitioners. I had to create one. I cannot just have law student practitioners who had taken their oath and went off on the field without a promise. It's like an honor code. I also have daily time records because I will not know which to monitor, what activities they've done, and what reflection paper goes with what event or session. So these are things that we'd put together and prepared. And then the rest of the other pages, we can just flash through. So these are parts of the manual and the syllabus. And so this immersive learning has to be, and I said this earlier, has to be coupled with knowledge that is shared. So we share the knowledge in the classroom as professors and the students. The students now go into the field and share their knowledge with their clients. The clients then learn something out of this. They will tell the others. You know, when the others know about it, the community is better served where many more will be able to benefit from the clinical legal education program that is prepared and set up by the schools. So as a final reflection, we choose this career because we want to do what's right, okay? We want to do it with heart and conscience. So sharing is caring, as they say. We have this unbreakable bond, not only with our students, but our students now want to be doing the right thing within our small society to begin with. Later on, regional, maybe later on nationwide, who knows? I'm hoping that as we move through clinical legal education and the development of each of the school's programs, we can learn from each other. Because it is never, never going to be enough that we do this once just for compliance. It has to be a lifestyle. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean Gonzaga, for the comprehensive discussion on the model CLEP of University of St. LaSalle. The Dean has tenacity of purpose and pursuant to Rule 138A and the issuances of the Legal Education Board. In fact, all the principles which are aimed to be integrated into the CLEP have been mentioned. And she has also thought of all the stakeholders from the community, the clients, the supervising lawyers, and the students, and even contemplated safety protocol, sustainability, and cascading it to the different law schools. I just want to share two things which I observed from yesterday and today. So actually, the dean also has put in the qualifications for supervising lawyers. They should not have any derogatory record. In yesterday's discussion, Dean Gerald Mosqueda also stated that when they accept applicants for faculty members. They look into the not only competence and effectivity as lawyers, but also the track record and the ethics of the professor. So I'm just very happy to note that as an aside. And also, President Bert Estrada of the Integrated Bar of the Philippines mentioned regarding being practice ready for the students. One student was very happy in drafting an affidavit because he was able to help establish the identity of the person who approached him. But when he experienced handling a criminal case, and Dean Gonzaga was saying they may not be prepared for all types of cases, the student suddenly said, who was in his fourth year, I don't want to become a lawyer anymore, because he was disillusioned. So I think the takeaway there is that we should not forget reassessing and recalibrating, because all of them said yesterday, we always ask our students in the first year, why do you want to become a lawyer? What's your motivation? And then we forget about this. We just give them information, and we don't check upon their understanding, as Professor Rowe used earlier. So maybe we don't forget about their wellness and their motivation as they go through their senior years in law school. So with that, we go next to Attorney Porto, who will share their experience in Brazil and the shift in the students' learning experience and the teaching methods when they emphasize learner-centered techniques.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to share the experience about Brazilian clinic, legal clinic, street law. I met Richard working there. It's a very different clinic because we pick the students first, second year, and we teach them how to teach law. Because it's kind of a myth, to know law and to know justice, you need to be a lawyer. But you don't need to do those things. So we have those students in a class when we do activities with them, like Richard just did one. And then we take them to the high school. And at high school, they do the same exercises. And why is it so important to use our law students? Because they can communicate better with the kids. Look at me, look at Richard. You're not young. We don't know what the young kids know, what they like. When they're going to ask questions to us, they say, oh, like TikTok? We don't know TikTok. So it's a powerful tool so we can communicate with our students. It's also very important because I learned the last days we have two things in common. Like our students, they're so afraid of the bar, and the clinics is the future. And why I believe this is because when Brazilian students, they're studying to the bar, they're trying to memorize, civil law principles, principle 1, principle 2, principle. They're creating songs to memorize. They are not trying to understand. They're not trying to apply. And working with Richard at Street Law Clinic, I saw an amazing exercise. We call the alien exercise. We give a sheet with like 15 rights. In our case, it was Brazilian rights. And then we ask the students, the aliens are coming here, they're going to live with us. But to be integrated with Brazilian society, we need to remove 3 rights. Because, we have a lot of rights. And then the students go in groups, let's remove this right. Let's remove the rights to bear arms. Let's remove the rights about free religion. And then, there's a lot of rights. You need to remove more rights. And then the students go to their groups and they start discussing about the rights. They are trying to understand what the right means in their society. And then at the end, we say, you can only have 3 rights. Or they say, 3 rights? What those aliens want here? And then in my activity, I pick right to life, rights to vote, what's the other one? Property rights. So that's my activity. But when we were here at the Philippines, something amazing happened. Tiffany is here. She can say to me, she was a student. The Philippine students, they were saying, okay, first we're going to remove 3 rights. And then I said, go back to your groups. I said, we need to remove more rights. They started rioting. There was a mutiny in the class. And they said, no foreigner will come here and say to us what we should have or should not have. It was an amazing experience. And you can ask Tiffany. I'm so impressed because I did this exercise 3 and 4 times in Brazil. We were always saying, okay, let's obey, let's remove the rights. And here in the Philippines, we have 3 mutinies. And I said, well, there's something special here. And also, what's special about this activity? Because the students, they know the powerful meaning of working with rights. They're not only memorizing the rights to their exam. Their exam is only 1 day. The rest of their life is going to be after the exam. So when we do this kind of activities, they learn the rights, they apply the rights, and they keep this powerful message to their life. They're going to be lawyers, they're going to be professors, they're going to be judges, and this kind of knowledge will always be with them. My mentor in Brazil, he's a dean there. He says, there's no use to have a lot of knowledge if you don't share. We need to share. And excellent way to share is about legal clinic. And a street law clinic is an excellent way to learn and share. This last weekend, there were professors from United States, Hong Kong, Pakistan, Brazil, and they were here not teaching. They were learning from the students. And it was like 20 hours of exercises last weekend. It's so amazing experience. I'm going to bring back home and say to all my friends, you know, I lived something there that I will never forget. I will carry with me for the rest of my life.
Thank you. So, in our conversations also, Attorney Portes emphasized the importance of time for the students. It's a resource that we should be contemplative and very intentional in how we educate them, and that we also learn from them and engage them. This is just the start of many conversations. The whole of LEAP, the fellowships, and the networks and alliances that we've built here. And we have very generous subject matter experts who are willing to be tapped, to be inquired upon, and to be, and you can reach out to them so that we can all share our resources, our expertise, and our concern for the well-being of the students. We'd like to thank everyone on the panel for this conversation and everyone in the audience for listening in, and the principles and the takeaways shared to us by Professor Rowe. With that, we will again thank everyone in our panel, and I turn over to Aaron.